Guys, welcome back. Let's get started. Right, this is the bear version of the market where we did break out of the downtrend, but we've discussed the 1.618 Fed, and that's where the market sold off the last 2 days of the market. Right, in the live sessions, we discussed whether it was the bull version or the bear version. The market was likely to have that wave for retracement, so we were able to time that bounce. But now, right, for this week, so this is kind of what I see. Right, I can see us having this wave 2 bounce to the upside before we come back down for the 3, 4, 5, right? But this is in the bear version. So again, this is a bull version, and you can see I have us in a wave 5, in a wave 3, right? So whether you are bullish or bearish, right, today, or depending on how massive the bounce that open is, right? I do think Monday is likely to, remain bullish, right? Or stay flat before we actually go down. You can see I do have a wave 2, right? We probably go to like 45995 before we actually have to come down, right? But that doesn't mean we can't, rule out this bull version where, if this is indeed a wave 5 and a wave 3, we're going to have a very, very bullish week, right? So these are the bull and bear versions of the market, I kind of wanted to discuss before we went through this week's watch list, right? The first play I have on here is GME, right? Let's look at GME and why I'm, kind of considering a short here, right? So let's go to the daily chart, right? Let's go to the daily chart, and you can see on the daily chart, right? Every time GME has touched the lower bound of this channel, we've had a bounce to the top of the channel, right? And every time we've hit the top of the channel, we've had a massive bounce to the downside. So that's the reason, right? At first we hit the top of the channel, we came down, right? And now again, right, when GME had that split news or whatever, we hit the top of the channel again. Now we sold off. So this is generally a very bearish candle, right? That's a massive outside bar candle, right? And the reason I've shown you guys what happens at the trend line, I'll go buy and sell the trend line. So that bounce should have been a surprise, right? However, same as the market, I do think GME will have that, wave 2 kind of bounce, right? Something like this can also be expected where, it comes down for the wave B before it has a wave C bounce. So although I do have it as short, I'm anticipating that it can still, move up to like 180, 185 before it comes back down. So that's the reason I wanted to show you the trend line and the chart. Be careful of this wave 2 bounce, right? Again, if GME just, goes to break the low 158, right? Again, you can short it, right? Short it to the downside because, the wave 2 would have been very shallow, which is, in a wave C, wave 2s are known to be shallow, but just based on how the market is looking, I do expect a little higher bounce, right? And the same thing can be seen for AMC and, BBY, any meme stock that you, are kind of looking at, right? If I go to the daily chart on AMC, you guys will be able to see that this channel on AMC has been used as support and resistance. And the reason AMC, had a massive bounce at the bottom of this channel, the reason it had a massive sell-off at the top of the channels, right? So if you guys were, where to draw channels on your chart, you'll be able to, play these moves more effectively. Like who says TA doesn't work on memes, right? It most definitely does if you're able to, time them and draw them properly. So I just wanted to point GME because, kind of came to my attention. The next one I have is MRNA, right? Last week I had them too, but MRNA did, stay in the same range, right? And MRNA, since it stayed in the same range, may have played out the wave 2 wave earlier, right? Which is why I think, whether you're a bull or bear, right? If this is a wave 4 and we're coming down for a wave 5, the move is downside. And even whether you're bullish, right? Even if this is a wave 1, your wave 2 has to retrace to at least 138, right? Before we move up for that 3, 4, 5. So that's the reason MRNA caught my eye, because whether you're bullish or bearish, I mean, it can still stay sideways, obviously, right? But whether you're bullish or bearish, for me, the next major trend is to the downside. So that's the reason I have MRNA put below 174, targets are 160, 150, and our stop is, at 180. So that's what I have for MRNA. So I just had a Twitter alert go off, right? I had calls over 50, and I just saw the news that Elon Musk, reported a passive stake at 25%. So I just, the reason I bring up Twitter is I just wanted to give out a shout out to my friend OPC, who does flow for us in the Discord, right? Because you can see, if I show you here, you can see he was pulling up this flow, right? He kept posting Twitter flow coming in, Twitter flow coming in, Twitter is still coming in. Why is it coming in, right? So shout out to OPT, because of you, a lot of people are going to ban, right, on Twitter. And that's the reason I wanted to bring up Twitter. And again, One more thing I wanted to mention is watch out for that wave 4 pullback. Right? Again, if you're trying to buy stock just because Elon Musk has a stake in Twitter, that's not advisable, because I'll show you that in a minute. Because after this brief sell-off, right, I do have Twitter, going up to test 55, but after that, you can see that that was just my B wave, right? Twitter finished an ABC move to the downside, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 before it actually had this B wave move to the upside. So you can see the pivot is also at 53.8, 54, right? So 54 to 55 definitely possible on Twitter if you have calls, right? But if you're trying to buy stock just because Musk has stock, the reason I wanted to bring this up is please don't fall into the hype, right? Because hype always leads to, downside. So that's the reason I just wanted to bring Twitter up. Thank you, OPC. So the next one on my watch list is actually AMD, right? We know AMD had a massive sell-off after the Barclays downgrade, and we knew this triangle, right? We broke out of it, had a major false breakout. So the trend for AMD still seems to be down, right? But however, as I mentioned, I do see, reflexive bounces on most of the sell-off, right? Which is why I'm expecting this B wave move to the upside on AMD, right? I do have targets of 113 and 118, right? With a stop at 107. And I give it, about 2 to 3 weeks on AMD. So that's the reason I have calls on AMD. I'm trying to play that bounce that I kind of showed you guys about. But again, these bounces can be very shallow if the market is weak, especially if the stock is weak. And you know that this trend line is resistance. So if you see AMD go close to 1112, 113, please, right, if you're playing calls, put on your trailing stops, right? Because it never hurts to have a stop in place, because you'll be able to take profits, right? And you can move your trail stop up as the stock moves higher. Even though I have higher targets, right, that doesn't mean you don't have to take profit as it bounces. So that's the reason I have AMD calls on there, right? The next stock I have is SRNE. And the reason for that, right, I barely ever pay pennies, but this huge volume caught my eye, right? And the sell-off it kind of had, right, is a bit more choppy. When you see choppy sell-off on very low volume, that generally corresponds to it having a move higher, right? So that's the reason I have calls on SRNE. Over 2.41, I can definitely see $3 and 3.33, right? So that's why I have calls on SRNE, right? That's why I have it on the watch list. The next one is Riot. So before I go on Riot, let's look at Bitcoin, right? The reason why the Bitcoin sell-off, everyone, who trades Bitcoin, right? I hope you guys understood that it hit the 200-day and it rejected, right? Anytime something breaks the 200-day and goes to retest it, at the first touch, you can expect a rejection, right? So what it did, right? Completely normal for Bitcoin to do, right? One rejection is fine, right? So I still have it, doing a wave 5 and a wave 3 before, I told you I can definitely see Bitcoin going as high as 57K, right? And I think Riot is kind of lagging, which is why I have a wave 5, all the way to 27 on Riot. That's the reason I have calls on here, right? Over 21.4, my targets are 23, 25, right? 3 to 4 weeks with a stop at 21. I think the risk reward on Riot is kind of interesting, right? So that's why I wanted to show you Bitcoin and Riot. So for BIDU, so I'm a lot more interested in BIDU, right? As long as this, you can see, right? Right now, the whatever, HSI had really bullish news, whatever, right? I'll show you two versions, right? I don't want you to be one dimensional. You should always be prepared to play both sides. On BIDU, you can see that it has been in this channel, right? Which has been holding as support and resistance. And right now it's gone to the top of the channel, right? So as long as it, holds this 140, it went as high as 149.5, right? As long as it holds the high of 149.5, BIDU definitely can, make the C wave to 116, right? Come back down and try to fill the gaps, right? However, this can definitely be looked as a bull flag, right? I can't rule out the fact that this can also be viewed as a bull flag with, BIDU moving as high as 170. So if BIDU manages to break the highest 150, you can play calls on it, right? As I mentioned, if it holds the high of 149 and you start to see it sell off, right, then it's gonna fill this gap in minimum. So I would say wait for it to fill this gap, have a bounce before try to short it. That would be a more high probable short taken there, right? Or you can wait for BIDU to break over 150, 151, right, before you play calls on it, because it's broken this flag. So those are your bull and bear versions for BIDU. Both sides, I can definitely see BIDU making a massive move. So that's kind of why I wanted to bring BIDU to your attention as well. The next one I have is Airbnb. The reason for that is you can see Airbnb has been making a series of lower highs, and lower highs, right? And I think even if you're bullish on Airbnb, this would be a 1-2, this would be a 3. I do kind of believe it have a 4 before it goes for a 5, right? So bull or bear, as long as Airbnb stays below 178, right? I think I can see 165 and 155, right? Give it 3 to 4 weeks. So I kind of wanted to draw Airbnb to your attention because of that, right? That's why I have Airbnb puts. And the last one I wanted to discuss was Apple. So again, Apple, bull or bear, I kind of wrote on chat, right? I can show you Apple testing. Apple 170, right? I probably said it a bunch of times. Too many people. All right. I'm not trying to go look for that, but as I mentioned, right, I was looking for the wave 4 or whether it was a wave Y. I was looking for Apple to sell off. So we did get 170.82, right? Close enough to 170, right? So here's the thing, right? Apple, again, same as BIDU, right, can make massive moves on either direction, right? Which is why I have, I've written Apple calls over 179, puts below 170, right? Again, if you are playing puts, right, you have to watch out for the wave 2 bounce. Either you can buy the wave 2 up, right? Or you can watch for it to break this, hit the 2, sell off, break the 170 low, and then you can play the 3, 4, 5 downside, right? Or if it breaks 179, right, the high here, it's going to have a 5th wave and go make a new all-time high, right? So those are kind of the bull and bear versions on Apple, right? I think it's likely to make a juicy move in either direction. So keep it on your watch list. The bulls do have the upper hand because as you can see, this purple channel, it did break out of it. And then it's just been, trending higher with, making higher lows. So bulls do have the upper hand. But again, as I mentioned, wave X's are really tricky and it can sell off really fast, just as fast as it went up. Right. So that's all I have for this week. That's what I wanted to discuss. Thank you so much.